This is a magic place. No better track to host Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America than Road America, the National Park of Speed.
A huge crowd spread around the 4 miles and 14 corners.
You can really let them stretch their legs down the straightaways. 3 great chances to unleash all the horsepower in these cars.
Everyone wants to race here, and of course, everyone wants to win here.
How the drivers manage the multi-class nature of this championship is always a crucial element to these races.
Unleash the bulls. Yeah, it's Lamborghini time.
There is something just unmistakable about the silhouette of a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo machine. And when you add in the sound of 600 plus horsepower and the blurred perspective of speeds over 180 miles per hour, you know it's time for the running of the bulls. Welcome to Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America and America's National Park of Speed. Hey folks, I'm Brian Till along with Ryan Marine, and hope you're ready for what always promises to be some exciting racing when Lamborghini cuts loose here at Road America. Ryan, take us around and tell us what makes Road America so special.
Well, it starts with the history. Opened in 1955, the layout of this track is essentially unchanged over the 7+ decades. 14 turns, 4 miles around, but long straightaways. That's one of the key components to this track. Some big break zones leading to good passing opportunities at turn 1, turn 5, turn 8, and also down at Canada Corner. And you can't discount the elevation change. 171 feet around a lap here at Road America. And that means that you have to factor that into the setup, factor that into the driving style. Just adds to the challenge of this great place.
And Ryan, this is a special place for many reasons, but one of the main ones is the circuit's personality, if you will. It really hasn't changed since its opening in 1955. It's a track that even when it's familiar to you, it still demands respect. And I don't think we saw a lot of that on lap 1, race 1 last year. We didn't even get to turn 3 before we had 2 cars in the fence, and it wasn't over yet because on the run down to turn 5, another big incident that takes out a couple of more Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2s. You see Rocky Bulldog there in the 99 in the fence, and there was carnage everywhere. A lot of unhappy drivers, and like I said, this racetrack demands respect always. Take a look at the grid there on the left side of the screen, and the colored number panel there will denote the class of the car that it is in. Kind of that orange color is the Pro category, yellow is Pro-Am, and then green is the Am category, and blue is LB Cup. And the only thing that defines the class is the experience of the driver behind the wheel.
Exactly right. So the pace potential of each of these cars is identical, exactly the same. And that's why you see a Pro-Am car, for instance, qualified up in 3rd overall with Danny Formal behind the wheel. That's the Pro in that Pro-Am lineup. It's not at all a surprise to see Pro-Am cars running inside the top 10. We even see some Am cars get up there from time to time. A look here at a few of the protagonists, and certainly it's been an interesting day for Philippe Touchette already.
Well, we start the second half of the 2026 season here at Road America. 3 race weekends down, that's 6 races down, and then another 3 weekends, 6 races to go before we crown our champions. And it has been a great season so far, some great racing. The championship's just incredibly close, and the grid, we talk about how they were lined up and ready to go. Big championship implications there with some penalties that were handed down after qualifying. Championship leader in LB Cup is at the back. He only had a 1-point lead. Man, it is going to be super, super tight. Lined up, ready to go here at the start, waiting to get to the top of the hill to see the green flag.
Field in perfect alignment coming up the hill. It's the pole sitter, Will Bamber, with this field in hand, and now he starts to step on the accelerator. The green flag waves, and Will Bamber leads the field across the start-finish line.
All right, green flag waves. Here we go, racing at Road America. You look at that 33 car. That is Will Bamber or Earl Bamber, I should say, to the lead. He needs this win today if he wants to stay in the championship. And there I go, getting the Bamber brothers mixed up again. Will Bamber behind the wheel of the 33, down to turn 3. Big lead there, and he needs to be in front of the 29 at the race's end. They got the point for the pole position. That is going to be critical. And if you really look at the points right now, Ryan, the 29 with Elias De La Torre behind the wheel, they are leading the championship in large part because of the pole position points. Today's race is the first race weekend where they have not gotten a pole position point. So these pole positions and these qualifying positions are going to be critical at season's end.
It's really close. The championship fight coming into the weekend, just 9 points between first and second in that title fight. So with that in mind, yeah, you have to really be thinking about the championship in terms of the qualifying. But, you know, the big points are paid here in the race. And right now, Bamber is doing exactly what he needs to do.
All right, into the carousel for the first time. It's going to take a couple of laps to get temperature and pressure in these hand-cooked tires. And right now, with 600-plus horsepower, it is going to be a handful in these opening laps, especially through the kink on the way down to Canada Corner. Top speeds on a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 machine. Some of the fastest trap speeds you'll see here all weekend long in a GT car. Over 180 miles an hour on the way into turn 5 and just over 180 into the brake zone for Canada Corner.
Just breakneck speed, and there are 3 long stretches around this track where you can stretch the legs of the car and really showcase that speed. Oh, big lunge to the inside there by Gianno Torino, trying to make a move. He's working on Dennis Lin. That's that 29 car that's in that championship fight.
One thing about this too, Ryan, 4 different classes out here, and you've got some very, very fast Pro-Am cars, like the 3rd car in the shot right there. That is the number 10 from Wayne Taylor Racing, championship leaders in the Pro-Am category, and they are going to get mixed up all day long. Danny Vermael behind the wheel of that number 10 right now.
And Danny is such a star, of course, champion in his own right in the Pro Class 3 times over, world final champion before. Really a strong driver. Oh, we got problems at the top of the hill in 1.
Yeah, this is going to be a big issue because anytime you're off in this gravel, the car sits on top of it right now, Ryan, but as it begins to move, I think we might have an issue. That little bit of fire that we always see out of the exhaust when one of these cars has a problem, completely normal. It's Nick Grote who's off there in turn 1, the X09 racing entry, and for Grote, it may be a big problem because as he tries to get those hand-cooked tires moving, they're going to dig into the gravel. Also damage there on the 12. And remember, that is one of the cars that got moved to the back of the grid after qualifying infractions. That is Anthony Bullock, who had originally qualified on pole, but had a technical infraction, some components on the car installed in an unapproved manner, all the lap times disallowed for both qualifying sessions. And so Bullock was starting at the back. Let's see if we can see what happens here. He dives up the inside, actually collects a couple of cars on the way into turn 1.
Wow, 3 cars involved, as you said, and certainly Grote got the worst of it because he's the one stuck in the gravel trap. We're still green for the moment, but that's a tough place to get extricated from. Another look at it here. Just a late lunge into traffic, nearly split the difference between the 2 cars, but made the contact, and 2 other cars definitely taken out in that one move.
Yeah, and it's so tempting on the way into turn 1 there because you think you've got an opening and then all of a sudden the door begins to close. I think the 65 was the other car involved. That would be Ray Shahi, who led the championship in LB Cup earlier in the season, but then had a significant crash in practice, or in qualifying, I should say, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and had to sit those 2 rounds out. And then has been back, had a good qualifying effort in race number 2 here for the weekend, but that is going to be a problem for him, as I'm sure he has some damage on the back of his Lamborghini.
Yeah, definitely. And if nothing else, it cost him some positions, but you have to believe that car's maybe not at 100% after that contact. Looks like Grote must have been able to get out of that gravel trap because we've been able to stay green here at this stage. That incident, by the way, unsurprisingly, is under review by race control.
Unsurprisingly. Yeah, and like I said, it's so tempting in turn 1. The other temptation corners to me on this racetrack, Ryan, are turn 5 and Canada corner, places where you look like you can stick your nose in, but if you do, oftentimes the car that you're trying to take a peek on is headed for the apex and the contact is made. 8, one of those corners as well. But right now, up front, Bamber doing everything that he needs to do. Will Bamber had a piece of this championship in the first couple of races because he actually was sharing the car with Elias De La Torre and then moved to another team, separated those two drivers, and all of a sudden the championship complexion got wide open starting at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, the second race weekend in.
Exactly. A moment here with again Bullock with a moment off track, got shoved out a little bit wide, but was able to continue on. As for Bamber, it really was that first race at Laguna Seca that put him in the hole, where he finished 11th, really didn't score many points. Other than that, it's been a remarkably strong and consistent season up to this point, but difficult to overcome a DNF, especially in a class as deep as this pro class is.
Absolutely. The great thing for him, though, was Elias De La Torre in race number 2 at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca had a DNF as well to kind of even things back up again. But as I was saying earlier about qualifying, 29 had been on pole and gotten that important point for pole in every race so far this season. So Elias De La Torre had collected 6 points throughout the season, and he came in here with only a 9-point lead. So obviously 2 of those pole positions he shared with Will Bamber, but these pole position points are critical, and that's why Bamber laying it all on the line in qualifying, getting that pole position today. And if they can take a win and finish in front of the 29, that championship's going to close down that much more. 15 points awarded for first place, 12 for second, 10 for third, and then on down the line. So if they were to win and De La Torre were to finish third, they'd collect 5 points and then the additional one for the pole, and that would really close this championship down.
Yeah, really big for them if it continues as it is. Here's the penalty, as expected, for Anthony Bullock for that contact that involved 2 other cars just a few laps ago. It's not just a drive-through. This is a stop plus 30 seconds, so that car needs to be stationary in the penalty box here for 30 seconds before they send the car back out on track. It does give the crew a chance to look at some of the damage there at the right front, but it's not something that they can attend to while serving the penalty.
Absolutely not. When you're serving a penalty, no work done on the car at all. So that just adds a little insult to the injury that's there. But meanwhile, up front, Bamber doing what he needs to do. Talk about doing what you need to do. Look at the number 10 and think about the season that Graham Doyle and Danny Formal have had. They have been perfect as far as race wins go. The only thing they don't have is a pole position every weekend, but Ryan, I think they'll take that to have 6 wins in 6 races.
And they've had their fair share of poles, just not in every single weekend, like the De La Torre story that you were telling earlier. Yeah, it's been a fantastic year for that pairing. 36 points to the good coming in here this weekend in that Pro-Am class. And you know, on paper, we thought this would be a pretty stout lineup. Champion last year in the Pro class in Danny Formal, champion in the Am class in Graham Doyle. And you think, okay, you take a Pro champion and an Am champion and you throw them in Pro-Am, surely the result is championship again. And to this point, that math has mathed. It actually is working out up to this stage. Nobody else in the class has been able to match their pace and maybe more importantly, their consistency.
Well, I think it's the consistency that really has been the magic sauce for them. They haven't been the fastest car in every session by any stretch of the imagination, but they have been consistent, as you have said, on the racetrack. And you put those 2 drivers together in a very well-prepared car, and you're going to have results. Right now, Hampus Eriksson looking for a result, beginning to really put pressure on Will Bamber just in front right now, the number 1 from Wayne Taylor Racing. And you talk about somebody that has experience and knows how to win at this racetrack. Hampus Eriksson certainly does.
Yeah, definitely swept the weekend here a year ago. That was a big part of their championship last season when he won the Pro Class title with Danny Formal, interestingly, since we were talking about Danny a moment ago. But they had come off of a couple of weekends where things really hadn't gone their way after starting the season so strong in the first 2 races last year. This is where they stamped their authority on the championship, and actually a couple of wins here at Road America, followed that up with a couple of wins in Indy, and then a win again at Misano, winning 5 out of the final 6 races.
Troy Peterson, the 75, or 72, I should say, a problem, and trying to figure out where that is right now. Is that top of turn 6, or is that turn 5? Bottom of the hill, one of the left-handers, it's 5, and not at all uncommon to see a car there. In fact, if you think about other races that we've watched today and you believe in archaeology, which is the study of where people have been before, you see a lot of it there on the racetrack in the form of rubber going right to left into the wall, right where Peterson managed to place his Lamborghini. Top
See
of
if
the
we
screen.
can figure out what happened to him. Exactly right. Top of the screen. He does have a little bit of traffic behind him, but heading down to the apex, and that was all on his own. Looped the car around and just barely kissed the concrete to the inside. That could have been a whole heck of a lot worse, but he got it locked down pretty quick and was able to scrub off quite a bit of speed.
Now this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 does have traction control, 9 settings of traction control, and a lot of the drivers run with very, very minimal traction control engaged at all. You want a little bit of wheel spin, the ability to slip the tire just a little bit at corner exit. That was just a little too much, and obviously 600 plus horsepower is a lot to put to the ground. One of the things that makes these cars so fast, Ryan, is obviously the horsepower number that is in that V10 in the back, but they run not a lot of aerodynamics. Obviously, the car is very slick, and it does have dive planes and a big splitter up front and that wing in the back, but it's less downforce than the GT3 cars that you'll see running, and that's what generates these massive top speeds. So you don't have a lot of downforce helping you, especially in a low-speed corner like turn 5.
That's true. So that's the downside of that configuration. The upside is those top speeds you were talking about earlier, and these are the fastest GT cars that you'll see on an IMSA weekend when Super Trofeo is in action. These things in a straight line are absolute rocket ships, and maybe no track better on the calendar to showcase that straight line speed than this one right here at Road America.
Watch these 3 cars out of Canada corner. The next car in the shot, wait for it, you'll see an orange Lamborghini just flash into the shot right there. It's Dennis Lind aboard the number 29, and that is the championship leader. He's doing what he needs to do to hold station right there. Meanwhile, Schwartz leading in the AM category. It's aboard the 89, there he is. Johan, a very experienced driver, championships at other levels, but this is by far the fastest car that Johan Schwartz has raced, and that 89X team doing a good job. And right now, they've kind of come to grips with it. I think he and Michael Fitzpatrick have really kind of had to learn this car, as a lot of drivers do, who step up and into Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I talked about a lot of horsepower. The braking is something that you need to get used to, and this Hankook tire as well. Get an idea of how gradually the leaders are beginning to slip away. But speaking of leaders, there has been a change up front. Hampus Eriksson has taken over the point, and how did that happen? Because he was a car length or 2 behind Bamber. It didn't look close enough to mount any kind of a charge. I believe Will Bamber may have a problem, or a car that's going away a little bit, because he is slipping further back, and now Danny Vermael is looking for a way around.
Yeah, I think we got just the briefest glimpse of it right as we were cutting away to Johan Schwartz, and I thought I saw that car going wide and Eriksson slipping through to the lead, but it was such a fleeting glance that I wasn't confident enough to say anything about it. But that's my supposition, that it was in the run through 13 towards 14 that that lead changed hands. And this might be evidence thereof. This is turn 13. Eriksson was closing in. We see Bamber just go a little bit wide, and that's enough.
Good call, good catch there. Just a little wide, uses some of that grasscrete at the exit. Last year, that may very well have been a spin, and of course last year, you may not have pushed quite as hard, knowing that just behind the curbing was dirt. They've got what I call grasscrete. I'm not sure that's exactly what they call it, but it's a concrete with an open almost hexagon in it that grass grows through. At the exit of, it was installed last year at the exit of the kink, and now it has been placed in more corners around the racetrack. I think turn 3, turn 6 may have it, turn 7, turn 14, turn 13, and it gives you that little margin. It's going to cost you time but it may not cost you a spin or contact with the wall. And for Will Bamber, he found it that time, and it did cost him a position.
Exactly right. That has been very well received by every driver I've talked to that has been forced out onto that grasscrete, as I've heard a lot of people calling it. I guess my understanding is you lose about 40% of the grip compared to the normal racing surface when you get out there. So it's not like you can really use it to gain any additional speed, but what it does do is it gives you that platform to save the car if you have a moment, if you're trying to take avoiding action, whatever the case. And I know that several drivers I've talked to have said that's part of the reason that they've been able to save a race car that otherwise might have gone around, or worse, ended up in the wall or ended up making contact with another car.
Tell you what, I don't think Will Bamber has a happy Lamborghini underneath him, but I'm not sure Hampus Eriksson does either. The last time through the carousel, Eriksson had a bit of a moment right about where we see him right now. The car a little bit high, and the back end got out from underneath him just a little bit, and it looks to me like Will Bamber really having to tiptoe and hold on is a problem for the 65. We talked about this earlier. Ray Shahi having contact, getting hit from behind when Bullock made that dive down into turn one, and I think we're beginning to see the repercussions of that right now.
Definitely. It's a shame that it's taken this long for it to materialize, and maybe gave Ray enough time to think that he might have gotten away with that one, but unfortunately not so much. That is enough to give some consternation to the team that will be watching on. They'll be keeping a close eye on tire pressures. That's something they can monitor in real time, and if they start to see a drop, they'll know there could be a puncture. But that's also something race control will look at. That if they feel it's safe, they'll let him continue, but they may intervene and make him come in and address that. The thing is, we're approaching the pit window here, and ideally you would take care of that situation while you're making your mandatory pit stop anyway.
It's interesting. It's one of the reasons I love Lamborghini Super Trofeo so much. The car without a lot of downforce, you can really get an idea of how the car is working for a driver on a particular day, because you don't have a lot of downforce to kind of mask any handling deficiencies. The cars move, you watch them twitch a little bit under heavy braking, and both Eriksson and Bamber are driving these cars hard, and what they're trying to do is create the biggest gap they can over the car behind him. For Will Bamber, it's not the car directly behind him. He wants that 10 car to stay there. It's to the 29 that he's trying to increase that gap, because he knows Elias De La Torre will be climbing behind the wheel of the 29 on this pit stop. He'll be handing the 33 over to Darius Trinka, and he wants to have Trinka have as much of a margin as he can possibly have. And look at Lynn at the exit of 7. What I was saying about these cars dancing, bobbing, weaving, they are on their tiptoes everywhere.
Dennis Lind is such a pro in these cars. He's had a ton of success in Super Trofeo over the years. Former European Series Pro Class champion. Believe it or not, that was a decade ago, 2016. Also won the World Final in the Pro Class that year, and knows this car extremely well. Debuted with the team alongside De La Torre at Laguna Seca, but we haven't seen him since then. Had to miss the Watkins Glen round because he was on duty that weekend at the 24 Hours of Spa, and that took priority, his full-time ride over there. But back in this car now, and picking up where his replacement for the weekend at Watkins Glen left off. Daniel Morad really was a revelation in his first ever Super Trofeo start, but Lind, I mean, just as experienced as they come in these cars, and a real asset to the whole team.
Well, and think about the young Floridian Elias De La Torre, 20 years old. If he wins this weekend with Dennis Lind, it will be the third different driver that he has won with so far this season. One of those is his nearest pursuer in the championship, Will Bamber.
That's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Crazy,
the two
right?
started the year as teammates, and now they end up as fierce rivals in different teams, both vying for the championship. And I think this has to be quite the dynamic for the likes of Dennis Lind in this car, and then Darius Trinka, who's teamed up with Will Bamber. You're in a championship battle, but it's not for yourself. And in some respects, I almost feel like there's more responsibility that comes along with that, because you're out there in support of somebody else, but your mistake or your great performance could negatively or positively impact your teammate in their attempt to win a title.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure is certainly there, and it's one of those deals too that the pressure is there to make sure that you're not going to hand the car to your teammate with any kind of penalties attached or strikes, so to speak. And the reason I say that is because track limits here at Road America, especially like turn 1, that's the big place. Turn 5 and also turn 13 are watched. Oh, did you see that slide there by the one of Ericsson in the carousel? He's done that a couple of times. The rear end just beginning to slide out from underneath him. He needs to make sure he's got a decent car to hand over to his co-driver on this stop, because if he comes in and all that good hand-cooked rubber is gone, Nick Persing's not going to be particularly pleased.
No, let's file that away and see if that's a problem that persists or perhaps gets worse when Persing gets in the car, because yes, we have mandatory pit stops, but crucially, no tire changes. So your point is well made. Whatever Hampus Ericsson uses up here, then that is not available for Persing in his stint. And if Hampus rather doesn't give Nick what he wants, then the shoe's on the other foot tomorrow in race 2, and he can get a measure of revenge at doing the same thing to Hampus.
Leaders in, and that will leave Will Bamber at the head of the train. He needs to run qualifying laps right now to continue to try to build a gap. Question is, did Dennis Lind come in as well? I think he did. So the 29 is in. They'll get De La Torre in that car as quickly as they can. I'm not going to give you the number. I'm just simply going to say, when I said make sure you don't hand a car over to your teammate that has penalties attached, that could be worn tires, but it could also be strikes from track limits violations. I've seen a couple of cars outside track limits violations. I'm sure the officials are outside track limits, and I'm sure the officials have too. Those strikes go with the car, not with the driver. You don't get to start over again. So if your teammate goes out there and hands you a couple of strikes, guess what? The first time you do it, that's strike 3.
Yeah, that's a really great point, that the second driver inherits those track limit strikes, as you call them, and will have to manage whatever they're given in the second stint of the race. And it could be a pretty long second stint here. I think we'll see quite a few pit early in this window, because here at Road America, you really don't risk dropping a lap if you're running up towards the front to begin with. The length of the lap is so long, or at least that risk is mitigated to some degree. And then also you cover yourself for a potential full course yellow. How many times has that really played a massive part in dictating outcomes of these races, where a team is off to a really good start, but they roll the dice, run a little bit long in the opening stint. Next thing you know, a yellow comes out, and when they make their pit stop, they get cycled to the back.
Got a 10-minute window to get that done. 99 seconds minimum time on pit road for the 2-driver format, 102 seconds for a single driver format. It'll be interesting to see if Bamber heads to pit lane this time. You're also looking at the lap times you're running. If they're good lap times and you're out in clean air, you may risk staying out. If you get caught in traffic or the car's going away, you might want to come in. But I think consistently over the weekend, I feel like Elias De La Torre and Dennis Lind have been more consistent driver to driver, less of a delta than I've seen between Will Bamber and Darius Trinka. But you look at the qualifying, Bamber on pole in Q1 and Trinka qualifying 5th as the 33 comes to pit road. Trinka qualifying 5th. When you look at the 29, it was a 3rd place qualifying for Dennis Lind and a 3rd place qualifying as well for Elias De La Torre. So not surprising to me that they left Will Bamber out there and said, see what you can get, even if it's a half a second. If you can get us a half a second, that will be a half a second that we're in front of the 29 that Darius Trinka will not have to be concerned about, and every little bit counts.
Well, this is the crucial time here. We'll find out if that strategy paid dividends or not. It doesn't take much, especially if there's any slip up in the pits for your rival. But the inverse is true too. This X09 team needs to be perfect here in this driver exchange. You can see a mechanic as well adjusting tire pressure. That's really about all you're allowed to do from a crew perspective during these pit stops, outside of helping with the driver exchange. And now it's just about sitting and waiting and timing the exit to make sure they leave the pit lane after 99 seconds, but nothing under, because if you get under that, then some penalties start to roll in.
Yeah, and they can be painful, to say the least, if you are too short on those pit stops. If it's less than a second, it's 3 times the time that you were short. So if you were a half a second short, it's going to be a minute or a second and a half added to your lap or your race time at the end. If it's more than a second short but less than 20, it's going to be a drive-through penalty. And if it's more than 20 seconds short, and I don't know even how you do that, right? But if it's more than 20 seconds short, it's 3 minutes added to your race time. So you got to make sure that you're on the button. You would rather be a half a second too long on pit lane than a half a second too short.
Big moment here because that overcut strategy seems to have worked.
Yeah.
Trinka has come out ahead of Persing, who's now aboard the Wayne Taylor racing car that Hampus Eriksson started. So that roll of the dice seems to have come up with all sixes there. Pretty picture perfect, but now Trinka's got to get into his rhythm quickly. Persing's had the advantage of being on track for a lap, and he's starting to close in.
Yeah, starting to close in, and as you said, that's one of the things about the two-driver format. It's one of the reasons the pit stop is shorter in a two-driver format than it is for a one-driver format. If it's a single driver, then that driver is acquainted with the car, the racetrack, the performance capabilities of the day based upon track conditions. The second driver takes a lap or two to get up to speed, and as you said, that is advantage to Persing because he's been out there a lap longer than Trinka has. But I'll tell you what, impressed right now with this outlap for Trinka because I think he's begun to pull away a little bit. The distance right now doesn't really matter though. It's the distance at 23 minutes and 20 seconds from now that's gonna matter.
Yeah, this has been super impressive for him to get on the pace right away and solidify the track position, the de facto lead of the race once everything cycles through that the pit strategy was able to afford them. Remember, Darius is a Pro-Am runner-up in Super Trofeo. Did that last year, won a couple of races, or won a race rather, was on the podium 8 times. Did that with 2 different teams, so it was not a perfectly straightforward season for him a year ago, but showed good pace, and now in year number 2 in the championship, really contributing here to Will Bamber and his title assault.
Experience matters, and now traffic for Trinka as he comes through turn 1. It balked him just a little bit, and I believe Persing is going to be able to close a little bit. Another car link.
He's getting closer, you're right. Definitely closed in slightly. That traffic, though, might have caught them both up just slightly, and it's not enough for Persing to mount an assault, at least not yet. We were watching both of these cars slide around quite a bit in that opening stint. Curious to see what they look like here over the final 22 minutes. You can see a lot of sliding there for Trinka, who's hard on the binders down into 5.
I think well into the anti-lock braking system there on the 33 into turn 5, well over 180 miles an hour into that brake zone, and the speeds down the straightaways are impressive, but really it's the brake zone that separates the two drivers. Who can brake later? Who can maintain control of that car from 180 plus miles an hour down to 50 miles an hour and then get the launch off the corner? That's the other thing that's so important about Road America. Corner entry is one thing, but the car has to work apex out. And one of the things the drivers say here, long duration corners like we're looking at here in the carousel really wear on the front tires. And if you burn the front tires off, you're going to be slow at the exit of turn 3, at the exit of the carousel, and it's going to set your nearest competitor up for an opportunity in the following brake zone.
That's the risk you run if you put too much stress through the Hankook tires. I guess the good news with this track is, by and large, you have pretty long straightaways after most of the corners, and that gives the tires a chance to relax a little bit and to get the temperature and pressures back down after the stress of being leaned on through the corners. But that carousel in particular, that really is one that puts any tire through the ringer. It's such a long duration corner, pretty high speed too, a lot of force, a lot of load into the left-hand sides, and as you mentioned, the front in particular really takes a beating.
Darius Trinka doing a great job right now. I actually think that Persing quicker on the way into some of these corners, but he dives in just a little bit early and has to keep his hands a little bit tighter apex out, and that limits his ability to get back in the throttle. We saw it gaining on Trinka coming into turn 14, yet Trinka pulled him off the corner. I think Trinka right now able to open his hands and let that 600 plus horsepower work just a little bit sooner than the number 1 can right now. So Persing, maybe he's got a front tire, or maybe he's beginning to wear on those front tires. You see that shallow entry, that means he's going to have to keep his hands tight around the apex. That's going to wear on those front tires.
Yeah, and you're taking a lot out of them here, which means you'll have less to work with at the end of the race. Pit window is closed, under 20 minutes to go now, and these two have cycled back through to just where they were when the pit window began, albeit with different drivers at the controls, and that's at the front of the field. Also, the positions have swapped between the two, and that was that overcut strategy that worked perfectly for X09, comparing their pit stops maybe a second between them. That's not enough to make the difference, so all credit to Will Bamber and the amount he pushed when he got clear air at the front of the field, ran that extra lap. That and the execution in the pit lane has been enough to get the 33 back on the points.
The corner exit working right now in Darius Trinka's favor. We'll have to see if that remains for the remainder of this event. Closing down inside 19 minutes to go right now. There is the number 19. Take a look at biggest movers, and Mathieu Boucher, one of those, up 13 positions. That's pretty impressive.
No doubt. He's been hard at work in this. This is Pro-Am class car that Boucher is driving here. Car number 19 from the TB Autosports stable. He's done a nice job to make his way up through the field.
Talk about championships coming in. Thinking about LB Cup, I'm looking at the timing and scoring screen right now. Chris Tosca, who's been super fast all year long, but has just had some horrible bad luck. Sebring, he continued to get hit multiple times and didn't get good finishes there, but he's been very quick. He leads in LB Cup right now, but the championship battle was 1 point, with Philippe Touchette holding on to the championship lead by 1 point over Rocky T. Bolduc coming in. They're running second and third on the racetrack. Bolduc behind Touchette, and Bolduc's going to have to get by him if he wants to get back to the championship lead in LB Cup. That has been a barn burner since the drop of the green flag first race of the season.
It's been fantastic in that class, and that is a class for drivers that are relatively new to motorsport, the entry-level class to Super Trofeo. The idea is you come here, drive in LB Cup for a year or two, kind of learn the way that pro-level racing works, and then start moving your way up the ranks. But tell you what, Touchette has had his work cut out for him here today. Looked like that car was going to start up front, had to start towards the back, has been making his way forward, and now, as you mentioned, finds himself in relatively close proximity to Bolduc, and those two have been really vying for the championship since the start of the season.
Well, what's impressive to me about Touchette today, and I don't mean on the weekend, I mean today, at the drop of this green flag, after qualifying, all of his times were disallowed for a technical infraction. All of them are going to be disallowed for qualifying too, I would imagine. I don't know how, with back-to-back qualifying sessions, the car would be illegal in one and not in the other, right? But I haven't seen that grid yet. That had huge championship implications. If both of those pole position points go away, then Rocky's just that much closer. That could get between your ears and inside your helmet very, very easily, but he has managed to put that behind him, started at the back of the field, and methodically has worked his way through and back up into second, most importantly in front of the 99 of Bolduc as he comes out of turn 5, and that is a good, heady, calm drive by Philippe Touchette.
That's the only way that you can approach these kinds of situations. It's in the past, nothing you can do about it now. Focus forward, and that is always the mantra of a racing driver. Can't do a whole lot about what's in your rearview mirror, but what you can affect is what's happening out the windscreen, whether that's metaphorical or literal. And in this case, it's been a little bit of both, right? He had to put the disappointment behind him from qualifying and just put his head down and go race his way up through the field. And sometimes the most fun races you can have are when you start out back and you just get to pass cars. That's all you have to think about doing, making your way up through the field, getting by other cars, and at the end of the day, see where you stack up.
What's interesting right now, you alluded to this earlier, I should say, as the championship battle and the race leads heads down to turn 8. For Elias De La Torre, the championship is in his hands. He's out there right now driving, right? But for Nick Persing, he's trying to move his way forward. He and Hampus Eriksson in the championship, it's his championship as well. For Darius Trinka, he's got Will Bamber's championship in his hands. And so you got to think about the pressure on that young man. Impressed by the job that he is doing right now. And like I said, I think he's doing a better job of controlling the corner exits. The other thing that you're going to find is the closer you get to the car in front of you, the more aerodynamic wash you're going to have over the small aerodynamic devices that you do have on these cars. And for Nick Persing, being up that close to Darius Trinka going through the carousel may not be where he wants to be. You lose a little aero on the front. Not only do you not get a good run, you wear more on those Hankook tires. Good battle to Canada corner.
Yeah, different classes here mixing it up, but nevertheless, side-by-side moment down into Canada corner, and the move was made that time. That's Gianno Torino in the 88, which had been running up closer to the front prior to this. I'm not exactly sure what shuffled him back, but able to get around Ian Porter. The car started by Chloe Chambers, and that's the second place car in Pro-Am, deep inside the top 10 overall right now. Those two getting more and more comfortable with the car as the season has progressed, and we're starting to see the results come for Chambers and for Porter.
Well, and we talked about that earlier, about having to learn your way into this. Very few drivers could just step in and go. Daniel Morad did it at Watkins Glen, but he is a seasoned professional who's used to driving different class cars. When you come from other classes with less tire, less horsepower, less braking capability, more, and this has more top speed as well, it's going to take you a while to learn your way into it. And that's exactly what I think we're seeing with Porter and Chambers.
Exactly right. Both of them have been really impressive in their young careers, but they are still very young careers. Haven't driven that many types of cars, certainly don't have much experience in a car like this. And I know from talking to Ian, it's been a bit eye-opening stepping into this car this year and learning all the challenges that come along with it. But as expected, you know, we saw what he did last year in VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, coming to grips with GT4, and just got stronger and stronger as the year went along. Was a front runner pretty much right away, but got even quicker as the year progressed. Always had the sense that it would come for him, and for Chloe as well, who's driven GTs, she's driven single-seaters. As they get more seat time in the car, you felt like this was going to be a pairing to keep an eye on, and here we are halfway through the year, and that's exactly what they've turned into.
Exactly what they've turned into as you watch the battle for the lead head out of Canada corner. And now Elias De La Torre, your championship leader, runs in third right now. Graham Doyle behind him on the racetrack in the number 10. That's the leader in Pro-Am. That car means nothing to Elias De La Torre right now. And at what point in time do you go, hey, if I'm Elias De La Torre, let's not crash this car trying to get to the front? Two very respected drivers right there with Graham Doyle and Elias De La Torre down into turn 8. Doyle didn't want to have anything to do with it. He and Danny Formal lead the championship in Pro-Am. He's going to let the 29 go, which he did. And now De La Torre can look forward, but he's got a long way to go to get there. It's things like this that can change the complexion of the race.
Well, those are two drivers thinking big picture, that's for sure. Problems here for the 4 car, off track at 14 and back on. Loses a couple of positions. That's Tommy Gore, who's behind the wheel right now. A couple of podiums, 3 in fact already this season. Came into the weekend 5th in points, but that's a bit of a setback there.
Yeah, he had a good run going before that off-track excursion at turn 14. And again, I think it's one of those things that some of these excursions, they would have exacted a higher price without some of this grasscrete at the exit of the corners. It's the gravel trap that actually stops him. And the great thing about the gravel here this weekend anyway, and I'm sure that they've reworked it in the offseason, this racetrack continues to improve year after year after year. The management here, exceptional with trying to make sure it's safe and it's raceable and it's comfortable for the competitors and the fans alike. The gravel does its job, but it's not, at least this weekend, it hasn't seemed to be punishing. We saw somebody off at turn 1 in the early goings, and then right then with the problem at 14. Neither one of those cars sunk in the gravel, but it certainly arrested their speed on the way in.
Yeah, that's really surprising to see, especially the incident at the beginning of the race. I was sure that car was going to be stuck in the gravel, but still it managed to drive away. Tommy at least was able to, I mean, he came in with a decent amount of speed behind him and just kept those wheels turning. That's a great way to make sure you don't get buried in the gravel. Well done to him there. But I agree, it does seem like there's been some work done to make these gravel traps do their job, slowing the car down, but without getting cars stuck, and then therefore bringing out full course yellows.
Up front, the battle is very, very interesting. Darius Trinka doing a great job keeping Nick Persing behind him, and I'm watching the laps, and one lap, one of them is half a tenth of a second faster than the other, and then the next time that changes. But the position has remained somewhat the same, and at times it looks like Trinka able to pull out just a little bit. But again, it's really interesting for me to watch the placement of these two cars through the carousel. Trinka, with somewhat of a higher line, seems to just kind of let the car go. Persing seems to hold the car down on the apex a little bit longer, and again, that wears on the tires a little bit. It looks like Persing a little quicker into the corners and Trinka a little quicker off the corners. That's for now, but we still have just inside 9 minutes to go.
But remember, when the lead changed hands earlier in the race, all it took was the smallest of mistakes through turn 13. Bamber went wide, and Ericsson slipped through to the lead. And that's the kind of pressure now that rests on the shoulders of Darius Trinka. He needs to be picture perfect for the final 8.5 minutes here, because as we've seen, one little miscue and everything can change.
Good little fight for 6th between the 27th. Joaquin Murillo and Gianno Torino just behind. Or there's Murillo. Did Torino get by? Indeed he did. So Torino is by. A lot more experience in the hands of Gianno Torino than Murillo has, that's for sure. But they had been having a good scrap up. And the other thing that you were talking about was making sure that you're clean for the next 8 minutes to go. Now, it's not just you. It's every other competitor. You need to be clean right now, because the last thing in the world you want to see if you're Darius Trinka is any kind of a full course caution scenario that is going to necessitate a restart late in the going.
Yeah, that changes the equation, and quickly, although we're getting to the point where a full course yellow might result in this race ending under the safety car. There are long pace car laps here at Road America, so that could be the saving grace for Trinka, but that would be bad news for a couple of cars which are carrying some post-race time penalties for short pit stops, the most notable of which actually is Murillo in the 27. That car will have 2.5 seconds added to its time post-race for being under the minimum pit stop time. A few other penalties too, none of them are terribly significant, all under 1 second, and I'm not sure it would change anything meaningful, but that is one thing that these teams that have accrued those penalties will be keeping in mind and trying to factor into their strategy for the final 7 minutes.
Driving a race car is about trying to be picture perfect everywhere. That includes in the pit lane, and you are measured to the 1,000th of a second. It shows you just how closely their pit stop times are measured. When you come up with a penalty that's only half a second long, you got to divide that by 3 to figure out how short they were on their stop. So 0.2 of a second short on the stop, and it matters. It matters to the officials. They catch it. Their timing equipment is spectacular. They catch it. The penalty's applied right there through the carousel. You see the different lines, the different approaches that Darius Trinka takes compared to Nick Persing.
Question for you, Mr. former professional race car driver. How much of that is driving style on the part of Persing, and how much of that maybe, especially in that fast, long duration corner, is Nick looking for some clean air he can put on the nose of the car by taking a different approach to Trinka?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell from outside the car, right? But you're exactly right, Ryan. I mean, it could be that if Persing takes a little bit wider line, he's going to get more into the wake of Darius Trinka in front of him. And if you already are suffering a little bit of a lack of grip there, the last thing you want to do is lose any more downforce. We've seen the number 1 car a little bit loose through there a couple of times. So maybe it's one of those deals he wants to make sure he's got good downforce. My personal belief is it's a driving style, because that style exists through all the other corners. You watch here, A little bit earlier is Persing with the turn in for turn 1, but I certainly notice it in 5 and in 8 and in the carousel, and you'll find little nuances like that. You see it there in turn 3. He's just a little bit earlier with the turn in. Your car has to work a little bit differently too, and that's what I was saying earlier about that early turn in makes you have to tighten your hands at the apex. That wears on tires, so you have to be careful of it. And from the get-go, it's looked like Darius Trinka has had the better corner exit. That's going to set him up in a better position in the brake zone. But I can tell you one thing, Nick Persing is absolutely phenomenal on the brakes. That's where he's closing in on the brakes and at corner entry. It's just that he's got to get close enough to do something with it. And so far, Trinka has had the better corner exits.
It's been a really good scrap, though, between these two, and it's those little nuances, the differences, and how they're approaching the corners that's made it, I think, so evenly matched between the pair of them. Persing knows that time's running out here to get that #1 machine back to the front, and this is about as close as we've seen him. Again, keeps the right sides tucked down to the white line around the inside of the carousel, tries to get that power down, but Trinka edging out that advantage ever so slightly, heading towards the kink once again. And at this stage, he'll look in the mirrors and see the gap back to Persing and know he has the breathing room. He really doesn't have to worry about being overly defensive down in the brake zone for Canada Corner.
Not at all, and that's the breathing room that you want. This time, Trinka a little bit earlier with the turn in and a little bit of a slide for Persing on the way off, trying to get that power down. It could be that he is running out of that hand coop rubber. Persing is, so we'll have to wait and see. Should be 2 laps at the line. Just over 2 minutes and 9 seconds on a really quick lap time, so should be 2 laps at the line this time by.
No question about that. So 8 miles for Darius Trinka to stay perfect. 28 corners that he has to negotiate perfectly here, or else Nick Persing is close enough to pounce on any minor miscue. Oh, a little bit wide there from Persing. He's the one that has the moment there. Big twitch as he drops the wheels at the exit of turn #1, but able to gather it back in and immediately sets off in pursuit once again.
And will that get a warning from race control? A lot of times they'll look at it and go, well, if you're saving your life at the exit of the corner and you go out there, that's one thing. If you're making time, that's another. There are some raindrops on our camera lenses, by the way, and we still have just inside 3 minutes to go. There's that move into turn 5, and this time Trinka pulls out a little bit more because Persing attacked just a little too hard. And now the car a little loose over the crest of the hill into 6. I think Nick Persing has used up those hand-cooked tires.
Yep, I think you're right. He's just asking more of that car than it's willing to give at this stage in the race. Maybe those tires 2 or 3 laps ago would have given him the grip that he's asking for, but at this stage, as hard as he's had to drive the car, as much time as he has spent in the wake of Darius Trinka as well, with the commensurate tire wear that comes with that, it's just too much for car and tire alike at this stage. Persing still has it in him to fight, but I'm not sure he has the sharpest weapon left at his disposal here for the final lap and a half.
I don't think so either. And for Will Bamber, if they can maintain this position for the next 1 minute and 45 seconds, that will be big. Remember, a point for the pole position. That helps in his charge. 9 points down when they came in here. If it were to finish like this, Elias De La Torre would be 3rd. That would be a net of 10 points, 15 points for Bamber. So that would be 5 plus the 1, 6 points. It would be down to 3 points as we head into tomorrow's race. We'll have to wait and see. Call it 4 points because I'll be a spoiler here and tell you that the 29 car has the pole position for tomorrow, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But 1 lap to go, white flag, 4 miles for Darius Trinka. More importantly for Will Bamber, 15 points if Darius Trinka can bring it home.
I can't imagine the level of stress that Will is feeling here, knowing this is a big opportunity. De La Torre finds himself in an unfamiliar position, not starting out front, and a distant 3rd here in the race. That car just hasn't been able to threaten these top 2 really at any point here this weekend, certainly not when it counts here in the race. And now nothing that Bamber can do to further his cause except sit and watch on the sidelines while Darius Trinka tries to bring it home.
Still a long way to go. and a lot of threats to face. Through turn 7, the next right-hand corner, super quick, just a touch of the brakes, back into the throttle. One mistake, and Persing will be there, but he is out of hand-cooked rubber, I'm pretty sure. And now a little shallower entry for Trinka there. You can give up a little space and begin to kind of block any opportunity that Nick Persing may think that he has. Same consistent line, though, for Trinka through the carousel. Same consistent line for Persing.
Another slide as well out of Persing, just enough to catch the eye. Great correction, stays in it as best as he can. A little bit of traffic up the road. I'm not sure the leaders are going to catch it in time for it to affect this battle for the overall lead. And those raindrops on a couple of the camera lenses as well. Still nothing settled yet with just a couple quarters left.
Oh, they may catch this traffic. Darius Trinka may catch them at exactly the wrong place. How do you find the cars in front? Maybe not. No, he's not going to get held up. He'll get a clean run through. Did he check up just a little bit? Good exit off the corner for Trinka. He's looking for win number 2 on the season. And for Will Bamber, he's looking for win number 4. And more importantly, closing down in the championship. What a drive by Darius Trinka. He and Bamber take the win in the pro category here at Road America.
Outstanding result for them and for the team. Lamborghini of Chicago proudly on the doors of that car as well. Something of a home race for the Associated dealership. Meanwhile, battles breaking out elsewhere. This is Gianno Torino fighting here, trying to see where he's going to end up in the final analysis. And just behind, Graham Doyle, Danny Formal, perfect on the season. That is their 7th win in as many starts in the Pro-Am class. Graham Doyle brings it home in race 1 at Road America.
Yeah, that's impressive stuff. Great run for them. And right now, going on in the AM category, Mike Fitzpatrick leads there, sharing that car with Johann Schwartz. Their best finish, or Schwartz's best finish, was a 2nd all the way back at Sebring. And for the pair of them, it's been a 4th place finish. But that 89X squad is looking to improve on that here at Road America as the rest of the field beginning to cycle through. Can Fitzpatrick hold on, keep Connor Broll behind him, and claim the victory in AM? There's that 89X entry through turn 14. No one pressuring him from the back, and this is going to be a big day for Mike Fitzpatrick and Johann Schwartz as they will take AM honors here at America's National Park of Speed.
Well done. This has been a long time coming. I think they've had good pace this year at times, put it all together here today, and they take the class win at Road America. Meanwhile, in LB Cup, Chris Tasca had a miserable start to the year. Races at Sebring saw finishes of 7th and 9th, but since then, 3 podiums in the last 4 races, and now back-to-back wins in the LB Cup category for Chris Tasca. Congratulations. He comes across the line in the Flying Alliance machine to take the victory in race 1 at Road America.
Tell you what, though, great job by Tasca. That's 2 wins in a row. He won race number 2 at Watkins Glen, so back-to-back victories for him, and a problem for the 63. A lot of smoke out of the engine compartment there. You don't see that very often. It's Fuentes who has climbed out. Like I said, you don't see that very often at all, but he has climbed out, will not make it to the start-finish line, I don't believe. But go back to LB Cup for a second. I mentioned this earlier for Philippe Touchette. What a run for him, and that's big in the championship in LB Cup. It's going to give him some cushion over Rocky T. Bulldog, who ends up finishing 5th in that category. A couple of penalties to be handed down, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But man, great championship battles. It has closed up in pro. It's opened up a little bit in LB Cup.
It certainly has, yeah. Great recovery from Touchette. Like you said, had to start out back despite having pole capable speed in qualifying earlier today. They'll have to do the same again tomorrow. Back to the car that stopped Martin Fuentes in the 63. They did see the checkered flag. That was on the in-lap, curiously. So as it stands, that's a podium for that car. Mateo Siderman and Martin Fuentes, 3rd in class, 10th overall. But the car up in smoke just after the checkered flag.
Well, timing is everything, right? And I'll tell you
Yes,
what,
it is.
as the 33 rolls down pit lane and heads to victory lane, Will Bamber, you need to buy dinner for your co-driver tonight. I know you got another race tomorrow, but what a job. The drive by Trinka, the strategy call to leave Will Bamber out there when the pit window opened, I think was absolutely key, and then Trinka brought it home.
Yeah, that was massive. Bamber put his head down, put in a massive in-lap there, atoned for his little miscue that briefly cost them the lead of the race, but that strategy got them back to the point, and Trinka did the rest. Elsewhere, just outside of the top 10 overall, Vanderdrift and Kingsford, didn't talk about them, but they were debuting in the championship here this weekend. Regulars in Super Trofeo over at Asia, but a strong 12th overall result for them in the XO9 team. Down in 20th overall, that's your winners in the AM class with Schwartz and his co-driver taking it home to the checkered flag.
We were talking about LB Cup. There you see it, 2 wins in a row for Chris Tasca for the 95 for 47 Motorsports, but then that great drive by Touchette to be there in second, and most importantly, in front of Bullock. Then we saw Bullock with the problems early. The 17 did not start the race today, and some other drivers not finishing where they wanted to, but guess what? You got another opportunity. Will Bamber, you're going to be buying your co-driver dinner tonight, I think, buddy.
And not a better place on the calendar, I suspect, to go celebrate than in Elkhart Lake. A lot of great options there, and I imagine the celebration, it won't go on too late because, again,
Nope.
Race 2 is coming your way tomorrow. But that was a huge, huge day in the championship for Will Bamber, and he's right there to celebrate with his teammate, Darius Trinka.
Now 5 races to go in the 2026 season. We are far from done with this championship. A lot of racing yet to go, and a lot more tomorrow. Race number 2 of the weekend. We'll have it all for you. We saw plenty of action today. Luckily, Mother Nature cooperated. Will she do the same tomorrow? We'll find out. Ryan Marine and I will be back with you then for race number 2 of the weekend for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. We'll see you tomorrow from Road America.